Welcome friends to another r/idontworkherelady video. I won't ask you to work for me, but all I will ask is if you could hit the like and subscribe buttons down below and support the channel. That said, our first story of the day is by RarKitty2. Karen is mad I have my baby in my place of work. This happened in 2016, but is a favorite story of mine. My paternal grandparents own a custom frame store that also sells giftware, jewelry, and needlework supplies. At this time, their store was quite large. I'll explain a bit of the layout to help the story. There was the front and the back separated by a wall with a door. Both were huge rooms. In the front was of course all the merchandise, and the back was where my grandfather did the framing. In the front there was a giant counter, the middle had the till, and on each side were huge counters where customers would pick stuff for their pictures. It was spacious behind that counter. On to the story. My daughter was maybe a month old when my grandmother called me asking if I would be able to help her for a day. She had a craft show she was going to and needed to pack a bunch of giftware, but she was being dragged away by errands that had popped up. She already had everything set aside on one of the side counters. All I had to do was pack them up safe. I wouldn't have to deal with any customers or other store stuff, just packing giftware. No heavy lifting, and I could bring my daughter, so of course I say yes since I love helping at the store. I want to note here, I don't get paid to do this, I do it because I want to help. The next morning, I get to the store and my grandma shows me everything she needs packed and takes off to her errands. I begin packing while my daughter sleeps in her playpen off to the side of the counter with the giftware. A couple hours later, an elder Karen comes in and begins to look around. I keep an eye on her. A lot of elderly ladies steal, but don't notify my grandfather right away in the back because sometimes people look and go. This one unfortunately did not and instead came to the counter. She said, "Hello, is Catherine, Grandma, here?" I say, "No, unfortunately she's out of the store at the moment. However, Kevin, Grandfather, is in the back. I can go get him for you." The elderly Karen looks annoyed and nods. I go to the back and let my grandfather know there's a customer. He comes out and I go back to packing. A few minutes after, my daughter starts fussing. I had changed her recently and I knew that cry, she was hungry. I quickly grab a bottle from my little black cooler, pop it in her mouth, and off to sleep she goes while drinking. She was crying for maybe 30 seconds. I give her a little cheek rub and go back to packing. This is when Karen became Karen. "You know, you're really lucky that you have such nice bosses that allow you to bring your child to work, though you and I both know she should be in daycare, and you should be focusing on your job. Your baby's a distraction to your work. You couldn't even help me without getting someone else to do it." I say, "Oh," laughing, "I don't actually work here. I'm just here helping with wrapping giftware for the craft show. My grandparents own the store. Kevin's my grandfather and Catherine's my grandma. I'm their grandmother and this is their great-granddaughter." Elderly Karen then looks to my grandfather in disbelief, which I get because he immigrated from Hong Kong, married my grandma, and adopted my dad, who are both white as heck. My grandfather then looks back at me with the look of, "You know I hate dealing with these people." All I could do was shrug like, "Sorry, not my fault, Grandma didn't warn us about this one." Then, because the silence was getting awkward, I blurted, "Yeah, my grandma Catherine was super excited when she found out I would be bringing her today." The elderly Karen says, "Oh." She then goes back to her transaction with my grandfather. I think she was picking up something on hold, and then she left. My grandfather shakes his head and goes back to framing. I finished packing. I later told my grandma what happened, and she left. In a situation like that where a Karen kind of tells you off, saying you and I both know she should be in daycare, not here with you, would your reaction be more, "Oh, I'm just helping out, I'm the granddaughter of the owner"? Or would you give more of the, "and you should mind your own business" type of reaction? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Karyu Gen 1. I accidentally punch a Karen when she tries to strip me. I work for a third-party logistics company, nothing too fancy. An example of what we do is one of our clients is a local chain, who hire us to fulfill their online sales. Every so often, we receive more orders than we have the inventory to fulfill. When this happens, I'll usually volunteer to go to one of the actual stores and pick up the merchandise we need to get us through until our next restock. I've been mistaken for an employee there dozens, if not hundreds of times by this point, and I don't even blame the customers. I'm often seen carrying around merchandise. I'm often wearing a safety vest. And by this point, I know my way around the stores better than a lot of the actual employees. Most of the time, I just help the customer because it's usually an easy problem, and I try to be a nice person. That's a lie. I'm actually just a horrible person at saying no. But I'd never actually met a Karen until this incident. Also worth noting is that since I'm not actually an employee of the store, I'm not allowed into the back for any reason. The story: someone in China ordered 200 American flag coffee mugs for some reason, so I'm visiting my friends to get the merchandise so we can fulfill this order. The manager spots me before I even make it through the door and hides behind a corner to spook me. Normal Tuesday so far. They go to the back to get the coffee mugs for me, and I just start browsing the t-shirts because it'll take 2 minutes to get the mugs. That's when the lady approaches. The lady says, "Excuse me, could you show me where the blue insert brand here t-shirts are?" I thought this was a little weird since I was wearing a blue t-shirt and shorts while the store employees all wore red polos, but she seemed nice so far, and I actually did know where the shirts were since I'd bought one for myself not too long ago. I say, "Yeah, they're right over here. I can show you." She says, "Thank you." I lead her literally 20 feet over to a massive display with a mannequin wearing the shirt and everything. I say, "There you go," and I start walking away. She says, "I already knew about these. You're out of larges. Go get me one and be quick about it. I'm in a hurry." Confusion as to why she'd ask where the blue shirts were without mentioning she knew about these hit me before recognition of the suddenly disrespectful tone did. I say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you'll need to find an employee to go to the back and check to see if they have more." She says, "Yeah, go do it." I say, "Oh, I don't actually work here." They say, "You're wearing your work shirt." I look down and sure enough, I am indeed in the shirt I'd bought here earlier, and she wanted it in her size now. To be clear, it's definitely not a work shirt, but it is the same brand as the store with a big logo on the front. Congrats to anyone who saw this plot twist coming. At this point, I'm more understanding as to why she thought I was an employee, and was about to offer to go find an employee for her when I realized she hadn't stopped talking. I didn't catch most of her speech, but this is when I returned my attention to her. "Millennials are so freaking stupid. I told you I'm in a hurry, so freaking get me a shirt so I can freaking go already." I say, "Ma'am, I'm not an employee, She cuts me off saying, "Freak you," and she grabs me by my ponytail and tries to lift my shirt over my head. I guess she wanted my shirt now? For the record, I'm clearly not a large, but I guess she wasn't thinking enough for that to make sense. By this point, my shirt is completely over my head and I'm just twisting trying to get it back down before my bra is displayed to the whole world and my hand hits something. She stops trying to rip my shirt off and I immediately pull it back down to see her sitting on the ground holding her face. We stare at each other for a few seconds, both obviously in shock at what just happened, before she stands up and just storms out of the store. An employee I'm pretty good friends with comes over and asks what just happened, and I just say, "I have no freaking idea." Eventually the manager gets back and we go watch the security camera, and it turns out I had nailed her right in the cheek with a closed fist. He asked me if I was alright, and I just laughed it off saying I was probably better than she was. I never actually saw the lady again. I'm half hoping she tries to press charges or something, so the story gets even better. But this is my first "I don't work here lady" story that was actually worth sharing, and I think it's a pretty good one. Sorry if it was a little wordy, but let me know what y'all think. I don't know if I'm overthinking this, but I feel like the manager should have done more. I guess it's easy enough to ask if you're okay. If you say yes, just let it go, but they're really going to watch assault happen on their video cameras and be like, "Hey, you okay? Yes? Alright, glad to hear it. Hope that doesn't happen again." Like, shouldn't the police have been called, or I don't know, something more feels like it should have happened. Our next story is by Agent 23, Wrong Library. So this happened a few days ago. I work at the circulation desk at a local library, and we often get some odd calls from older patrons who are a little confused. Most of the time, it's just them asking you to look up a phone number for them, so if I have the time, I'll gladly just do it. However, on this day, that's not what the older customer wanted. I do my standard greeting of saying my local library's name and asking how I can help. As soon as I finish, an older woman starts complaining about some sort of system change and how she wasn't happy about it. She goes on to talk about how apparently the system is changing again in a few days, and how on earth is she supposed to learn how to use it. Now, by this point, I had no idea what she was talking about because I hadn't heard about any sort of system change. The older lady was willing to be put on hold so I could inquire about it, and after speaking with a coworker, I found out that the library website changed at the beginning of the year, but barely anything changed and there were no more changes planned. With the new information, I go back to help the patron. I try to confirm what exactly she was asking about the system change, since all she really did was complain before. And I also let her know that our system was not changing. She was frustrated at this point and goes on to say, "I got your email, it said the system's changing on the 5th. My question is, are you guys going to bother to help me with it? You guys just changed it a few months ago, and now you guys are going to change it again? How am I supposed to learn this? I've been coming to Random Library for 15 years, and this is outrageous." The thing was that Random Library, she said, wasn't mine, and also doesn't even exist. She combined 2 different cities in the name, and neither of which was the city my library is located. I knew there was no point in telling her she called the wrong library, so I told her if she has any issues, to just give us a call and we can try to help. Well, apparently that wasn't good enough. She demands to know if she can just come in for help. I tell her, sure, come on in and we'll gladly help you. There's a library at both of the cities she mentioned, and I feel bad for whoever has to help her at the library she actually meant to call. Now, admittedly, I don't know enough about libraries, but whatever you want to do online relating to a library, can't you do that over the phone regardless? Wouldn't there most likely be people on the phones to help, whether it's looking up if a book's in stock or maybe checking something out over the phone or online? It sucks that it's a big hassle for her, but honestly, she should be able to figure it out. Our next story is by Sokia Wolf. Understood mistake to angy customer. I used to work at a retail place called Ross, and at the time, we had the dress code of blue shirts and black pants. I would go to Walmart to shop normally after I would get off work because it was convenient for me. At the time, the Walmart people were wearing those vests to indicate they worked there. I think that one still does it. I want to make note that whenever I'm looking for someone, I can never find anyone. Compared to how big it was, there weren't that many workers. So I was shopping after work one day. I had a few things in the cart and was looking around for, I think, towels or something like that. I had a customer ask me where one of those light-up mini disco balls would be. I told her that I thought that it might be either the lamps or the party area. Both of those were nearby where I was, but I wasn't sure since I didn't work there. She said okay and presumably went to look. I continued to look around and moved to the crafting section. I guess she couldn't find what she was looking for because she came back unhappy. She demanded to know where she could find the disco ball. I just kinda shrugged and said, I don't know. She demanded that I show her, and so I decided to pull up the Walmart app and looked for it. Turns out there weren't any in stock, and when I showed her, she wasn't happy. She said, "So you sent me on a wild goose chase?" I said, "Not intentionally. I didn't know they weren't in stock." She says, "Why didn't you look it up before?" I say, "Because I don't work here, like I said. I was just trying to help." She says, "You're wearing blue." I say, "I like blue. Is that a crime?" She says, "But it means you work here." I say, "No. Have a good day. Good luck." I walked away, but she was super unhappy, yelling at me, but I ignored her. I'll still help others out. I've had so many people ask me where things are, but there is some people who I just can't help. Some people are so entitled. So no longer is it the, oh, you're wearing a professional outfit, oh, you're wearing a name tag or a lanyard. Now it's, you're wearing the store color, so clearly that means you work here. We've gone from the people who just don't care to pay attention to the people who just don't care to think. And our final story of the day is by Cordero Biggs. I've got to remember to take off my hard hat and vest. I work in construction, and my position in my company has me visiting different job sites on a daily basis, meeting with my superintendents and inspecting timelines, workflow, and addressing issues as needed. One of our larger projects at this time is a 9-story high-rise in an area where they also happen to be working on widening a 4-lane and adding turn lanes, so it's a mess for daily traffic. It also has nothing to do with what we do. Thursday afternoon, I was leaving the job site and stopped into a convenience store for fuel and a Gatorade, and I noticed a lady in her 60s or 70s get out of her car and begin eyeballing me. I started the pump and began walking inside when she called out to me, caught up, and asked when we were going to finally finish the road work. I said, "Ma'am, that work has nothing to do with me, but I'd estimate another month or so." She looked me up and down and said, "You're dressed just like them. Why wouldn't you know?" I told her that I wasn't involved in the roadwork and, pointing to our building, explained that my company was working on it and the roadwork was being performed by name of contractor. Then she asked, "So who do I talk to over there? They make it very difficult to get in and out of the neighborhood." I say, "I have no clue. I don't know anyone over there." She says, "But you knew their company name." I say, "It's on the equipment and trucks, ma'am." She says, "I think you're just trying to get out of answering my questions. There's no sense in having all these different companies working in the same area. Who do I talk to about that?" I say, "Yes, ma'am, it's definitely inconvenient. The city contracts all the road work. They'd be who to talk to." She says, "So you'll talk to them about hurrying up?" I sigh and say, "Yes, ma'am, I'll see what I can do." I walked into the same store on Friday morning for coffee, and I saw her standing at the register. I turned around and just drank the superintendent's swill in the job trailer. You gotta love those moments where you see somebody at a place and you just know that no matter what, no matter how bad you wanted to go to that place, you're better off just turning around and leaving rather than putting up with that. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.